I just wanted.
This is the story of a private detective named Matthew Shutter. He is asked by a man to investigate the kidnapping and murder of his wife. The story begins in 1991 in New York City. We find Matthew, a detective, relaxing at a small cafe. He's reading a newspaper and drinking coffee when two robbers come in. They demand money from the person outside. When the person refuses, the robbers shoot him. Matthew hears the gunshot. He quickly pulls out his gun and rushes outside. He shoots and kills one of the robbers immediately. The other robber sees Matthew and starts to run away. Matthew chases him. The robber runs up some stairs, but Matthew catches up and shoots him, killing him as well. Years pass, and the scene shifts to 1999. Matthew is once again at the same cafe, reading a newspaper. A man named Peter sits down in front of him. Peter tells Matthew that he knows he's a detective and that his brother, Kenny, is in trouble. Peter asks Matthew to meet with Kenny because he isn't being completely open about what's going on. Matthew agrees to help and goes to meet Kenny. Kenny explains that criminals kidnapped his wife and demanded a ransom. He paid the money, but they killed her anyway. He wants Matthew to find them and make sure they are punished. Matthew starts asking Kenny questions. He wants to know what Kenny does for a living and who he thinks might be responsible. Matthew soon discovers that Kenny is a drug dealer, not just an ordinary man. He realizes that a drug dealer would have many enemies, so he decides to turn down the case. Later, when Matthew gets home, he finds Kenny waiting outside his door. Kenny tells him that his wife was the most important person in the world to him. The story then goes into a flashback. One day, Kenny received a phone call from the kidnappers. They told him they had his wife and demanded $1 million to keep her alive. Kenny, scared, told them he only had $400,000. The kidnappers didn't care. They told him to go to a specific address, leave the money in a car, and then return. They gave him very detailed instructions on where to stop, where to walk, and where to wait. Kenny followed their instructions perfectly. As soon as he got back to his car, his phone rang. The kidnappers said they had the money and told him to go to a car nearby and open the trunk. They said his wife was inside. Kenny went and opened the trunk. He saw blood everywhere and many small packages. He was horrified. He realized they had dismembered his wife's body and put her organs into the packages. After seeing this, Kenny broke down. He told Matthew everything and left him a tape recorder. After Kenny leaves, Matthew plays the recording. He hears Kenny screaming in pain. The kidnappers had recorded him while they were dismembering his body. The sound is so awful that Matthew can't listen to the whole thing. Moved by Kenny's pain, Matthew decides to take the case. The next day, he starts his investigation. He first goes to the spot where Kenny was kidnapped. There are many shops nearby, and he talks to one of the shopkeepers. The shopkeeper tells Matthew that he knew Kenny and that on the day of the kidnapping, he saw a van and two men in uniform. Matthew writes down all the details. After leaving the first shop, Matthew talks to other people in the area. They all tell him the same thing. They saw a van and two men. Matthew then goes to a cafe to do some research online, but he doesn't know how to use the internet. A young boy named TJ, who is also at the cafe, offers to help. TJ starts searching for old news articles about similar cases. He discovers two more victims, a woman named Mary and another named Leela. Leela's body was found 2 days prior, with her leg discovered in a garbage dump and the rest of her body found elsewhere. This pattern suggests that a single group is behind all these murders, kidnapping people and dismembering their bodies. TJ's research on Leela's case reveals that all the witnesses saw a blue van used to kidnap her. The report also says Leela's body was found in a graveyard. Matthew decides to go there. At the graveyard, Matthew questions the guard, a man named Jones, asking him what he knows about the case and where he was when the body was found. Jones's answers seem evasive, and Matthew becomes suspicious. He decides to wait for Jones to finish his shift and follow him home. As Matthew is following Jones, he realizes someone is following him. He stops and confronts the person, who turns out to be TJ. TJ explains that he wants to be a detective and help solve the case. Matthew tells him to go home, saying he's too young to be involved in something so dangerous. TJ agrees and leaves. Matthew then looks at Leela's file again. He sees that she had a fiancé who still lives in the area. Matthew realizes that the address is in the same building where Jones went. Leela's fiancé's name is Ruben. Matthew goes straight to Ruben's apartment and asks him what he remembers. Ruben says that on the day Leela was kidnapped, they were supposed to meet at a coffee shop. He saw Leela outside, but before she could come in, a blue van pulled up. 2 men got out, forced her inside, and drove away. He also remembers seeing a third person, the driver, in the van. Matthew learns that Ruben is also involved in the drug business. This means both Kenny and Ruben, the victim's partners, were drug dealers. Just then, Matthew sees Jones leave the building. This is his chance to go into Jones's apartment. He heads to the roof, while Jones goes outside. Jones sees Matthew and becomes suspicious, but Matthew goes into Jones's room and sees many pictures of Leela. He realizes that Jones had been watching her, taking photos whenever she was on Ruben's balcony. Suddenly, Matthew sees Jones at the door with a knife. Matthew calmly tells him he is a detective and has dealt with dangerous people his whole life. He warns Jones that if he attacks, Matthew will kill him and he won't face any charges. He convinces Jones to put the knife down so they can talk. Jones puts the knife down and explains the whole story. He tells Matthew that he has always liked Leela and wanted to give her a better life, but she was in love with Ruben, a drug dealer, who got her addicted to drugs. Jones says he met 2 men with a file that had a Y stamp on it. He gave them all the information he had on Ruben and Leela, hoping to get Leela away from the drugs and Ruben. Then the story of Jones continues. He says he agreed to help the 2 men he thought were DA agents, who promised to kidnap Leela to get her away from Ruben. On the day of the kidnapping, Jones was driving the van. He soon realized the men were not DA agents, but psychos who enjoyed torturing women. Leela was screaming, but they didn't care. Realizing he couldn't do anything to help, Jones stopped the van and ran away.